My name is Bernard Bragg. I'm happy to be here this evening to celebrate the Passover Seder planned by the Jewish Deaf Community Center, JDCC. And what is Passover? Passover is a celebration of a remembrance of the history of Jewish people all over the world. Passover lasts for 8 days. And on the first nights of Passover, we have a Seder in which we will read the Haggadah, a storybook that recites the struggles of the Jewish people that happened over 3,000 years ago. This Haggadah, the Passover book, has been adapted to help us understand the traditional Seder. To get the feeling of togetherness, this Seder is family style. Each table selects a leader who will lead the participants throughout the Haggadah that we read every year during Passover. Each one of the people will also take turns in reading from the Passover story. Passover is one of the most important Jewish holidays each year. This is a time when we remember Moses, who led the Jewish people out of Egypt and then became free from slavery. Please, take your time to follow the Haggadah and enjoy a traditional Seder meal. And what makes this Seder different? A community Seder is where everyone joins in to celebrate and remember about Passover. In some places around the world, where people know little or nothing about Passover, the community Seder gives them the opportunity to learn more about the inspiring story of Passover. The word Seder, in Hebrew, it means order. The Seder follows a specific order, showing a number of things that we have to go through. What's the word afikomen? What does that mean? It means dessert. That is eaten last to complete the Seder. And why do we have this multimedia Seder? Well, for years, deaf people had to look at their books and try to follow the leaders, and it was too difficult, so JDCC decided to develop something more user-friendly. So this new concept allows us to focus on the screen without having to worry about what pages we're on, and just relax at our table with our families and friends. Tonight, Jeff Dichter will lead our community Seder, and Rabbi Rebecca Dubowe will sign the blessings. So let us begin our Seder.
Please, everyone, pour the first cup of wine. During the Seder service, Each person drinks 4 times from the wine cup. We will say the Kiddush, which is the blessing for the wine. We always say the Kiddush every Shabbat and during all Jewish holidays. Please stand up. We are about to drink the first cup of wine. Let us all raise the cup, recline to the left side to celebrate that we are now free people, and say together, "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen." Now we will pour more wine for the second cup of wine. We usually say the Kiddush before the blessing for washing our hands. We will wash our hands 2 times during this Seder. The first time, we will not say the blessing because we are not eating matzah yet. And the second time we wash our hands, we will recite the blessing. We now wash our hands. The Seder plate has 6 symbols. This is the karpas, the Hebrew word for parsley. We dip the parsley in salt water. The salt water represents slavery and the sorrow of their tears. Let us all dip and say together, "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'adamah."
During the 8 days of Passover, we eat certain kinds of matzah that has no yeast. And the reason why we do this is to remind us when our ancestors, the Jewish slaves, escaped to freedom from Egypt. They wanted to make their bread and let it rise, but they didn't have the time. So they made their bread flat. Now, it's a tradition. That is, one of you is going to steal the matzah, the afikomen, And there are two pieces actually that are broken apart. Now each table, the leader is going to take the matzah and break it in half. The larger piece will be used for the afikomen, and it is going to be hidden. The custom is for the Seder that the children try to look for it and find it, the missing piece of the matzah that was stolen, and tell the person, get money from the person at the table, the leader, and they will exchange that for the afikomen. Anyone at the table can go ahead and steal the matzah. Now go ahead and wrap it in the napkin. Now wait a second, we do need the afikomen now. The reason why is a Seder must be completed that way. You can't leave the Seder without that. You have to wait until we eat the afikomen. Now who's going to steal this? You? Oh no. Okay, now wait. The leaders, I want to warn you, keep an eye on the afikomen at your table, okay? Our forefathers ate the matzah just like this in Egypt. Excuse me. Let everyone who is hungry to come here, let them come and join us for our feast and eat with us. Let everyone come and join us at our Passover feast. This year we celebrate here. Next year we will celebrate where? In Jerusalem. This year we're slaves, but next year we'll be free. Every year, the Seder, we ask the youngest person to come up and ask the 4 questions. The 4 questions are a remembrance of the time that the Pharaoh tried to destroy the Jewish children. So let me ask the youngest person the 4 questions. Okay? Tonight is different. How? Well, why do we eat only matzah, not the bread? I see. Well, we remember that the bread was flat and hard that our ancestors made. They left Egypt in a hurry, and they didn't have the time to let the bread rise. Tonight, why do we eat only bitter herbs, not other vegetables? We eat the bitter herbs to remember that our ancestors were slaves. Tonight, why do we dip twice and not just once? I see. We dip the parsley in salt water. The reason why is to remember the tears of our ancestors. The second time we dip the bitter herbs into the harosis, the apples and nuts that are mixed up, the reason we do that is to sweeten the bitterness of slavery. Tonight, why do we recline at the table, not just sit like we normally do? Yes, that's true. We do recline while we're eating as a sign of freedom and comfort. Now, what we're going to do is read the story of Exodus. So now at each table, go ahead and pick a reader, and you can take turns reading.
Thousands of years ago, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt. They were slaves under King Pharaoh for 400 years. The Egyptians did not want the Jewish people to be free.
One day, the Pharaoh decided to kill all the Jewish boys. Yocheved did not want the Pharaoh to kill her son, Moses. She put Moses in a basket in the river. The Pharaoh's daughter found the baby and took him home and named him Moses. Moses means taken from the water.
Moses grew up in the court of Pharaoh. He never forgot he was Jewish. One day, he saw an Egyptian beating a Jewish slave. Moses wanted to protect the slave, so he killed the Egyptian. Someone saw it and told the authorities. Moses was in bad trouble. He ran away from Egypt. He moved to a place near Mount Sinai and became a shepherd.
Then God asked Moses to go back to Egypt and free the Jewish slaves. Moses returned to Egypt. He told the Pharaoh to let the Jews go free. But Pharaoh refused to listen. God decided to punish Pharaoh. God sent the 10 plagues. The 10 plagues, what are they? Well, one is blood. All the water in the land of Egypt turned into blood. The Egyptians couldn't drink the water or wash or cook. If they wanted water, the only way to do it was to buy it from a Jew. Second is frogs. Wow, frogs were all over the country, in beds and dishes, on tables and chairs and floors. Slimy frogs were everywhere. The sound of their croaking drove the Egyptians crazy. Third, lice. Lice came crawling up from the ground into people's clothing and their hair. The Egyptians were sick and sore from all the itching and scratching, but the Pharaoh was still stubborn. He would not let the Jews go. Fourth, wild animals. The wild animals suddenly appeared, killing and destroying everything in their path. But again, the Jews in Goshen were spared. Fifth, pestilence. The Egyptian animals were sick. The cattle, the sheep, and their horses, the pride and joy of Egypt, sickened and died. 6, boils. Now everyone in Egypt was covered with this horrible, painful blister. The Egyptians couldn't stand it. They couldn't sit, they couldn't lie down, in their beds. Their suffering was terrible. And still, the Pharaoh refused to let the Jews go. Seventh, hail. A horrendous hailstorm swept across Egypt. Enormous pieces of ice with flashes of fire inside destroyed all the flowers, the gardens, and the trees. Eighth, locusts. And the locusts came, millions and millions of them, in the dark, buzzing clouds. The Egyptians, it ate like a razor, mowing down and gobbling up the grain and crops in the field. Ninth, darkness. A darkness so thick, no candle or fire could shine through. It covered the country. The Egyptian people sat glued to their chairs or lay trembling in their beds. 10, plague is death of the firstborn. The month was Nisan, the 15th day, and the time at 12 midnight. Every Egyptian man, boy, and beast died. Egypt, the people, were filled with cries and weeping of all the death. But in Goshen, the Jews rejoiced. In Goshen, the angel of death passed over every Jewish house. It passed over all their houses. Not a single person died. Now, what we're going to do is name each plague, and we're going to be using our pinky finger, and we're going to dip it in the wine cup and place a drop of wine on our plates. Now, we want to remember the Egyptians suffered too. And now, we're going to name the 10 plagues. And make sure when you dip your finger in the wine, do it for each plague. Say each plague, okay? Blood. Frogs. Lice. Wild beasts. Sickness. Boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and death of the firstborn. Now, the next reader, please read the next story.
God sent the first 9 plagues, but Pharaoh was stubborn. Pharaoh refused to let the Jews go free. So God sent the 10th plague to kill all of the firstborn Egyptians.
The Jewish people put blood from a lamb on the door of their houses. The angel came to all Egyptian homes and killed the firstborn. Pharaoh's son was killed. The Pharaoh was fed up and told Moses to take the Jewish slaves out of Egypt.
All the Jewish people hurried. They wanted to leave and be free. They had no time to let their bread rise. They ate unleavened bread.
Pharaoh changed his mind again He ordered his army to capture the Jewish people and bring them back to Egypt. The Jewish people saw the soldiers coming. How would they cross the Red Sea? Oh no, they said.
So God told Moses to raise his hand towards the sea. The sea divided, and the Jewish people walked across on dry land. The Egyptian army tried to follow them, but the waters closed and the soldiers drowned.
The Jewish people were now free. We celebrate the holiday of Passover to remember their freedom experiences. We just finished naming the 10 plagues using our pinky finger. Now, the wine glasses we've been dipping from, the wine has lowered a little bit. And you know, in our lives are full, and it's the same as our cup of wine. They need to be full. So please, fill up your glass of wine. Is your wine glass full over there? Everybody's is full? Good. We fill our wine glasses 4 times. And what do we do that for? Okay. We drink 4 cups of wine as it reminds us of the 4 times mentioned in the Torah that God promises to redeem the people of Israel from slavery. Those are the 4 reasons, and they are, number 1, I will bring you out. 2, I will deliver you. 3, I will redeem you. And 4, I will take you out to be my people. These 4 phrases or expressions are mentioned in the Bible under Exodus 6:6-7.
We are going to sing a song called Dayenu. When we see the word Dayenu, sign satisfied. For each of these miracles, it would have been enough. Please sign with me. If he had brought us out of Egypt and not judged against them, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had judged against them and had not destroyed their idols, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had destroyed their idols and had not killed their firstborn, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had killed their firstborn and had not given us their treasure, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had given us their treasure and had not split the Red Sea, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had split the Red Sea and had not drowned us through it dry, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had drowned us through it dry and had not drowned our foes in it, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had drowned our foes in it and had not helped us 40 years in the desert, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had helped us 40 years in the desert and had not fed us the manna, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had fed us with the manna and had not given us the Sabbath, it would have been enough. Dayenu. If he had given us the Sabbath and had not brought us to Mount Sinai, it would have been enough. Dayenu.
Zeroah. Here it is. And that's the Hebrew word for shank bone. Okay, now, all of you tables, go ahead and pick the next reader.
The Zroah, shank bone, is a reminder of the Jewish people using the blood of a lamb on their doorposts. We remember the lamb and the blood. We remember that God passed over the Jewish homes, but the Egyptians did not have blood on their doorposts. So God killed the firstborn children of the Egyptians.
Now, pick the next reader. Matzah, the unleavened bread, and this is to remember that the Jewish people had to hurry and leave Egypt. They did not have time to bake bread. We eat matzah to remember the flat bread our ancestors ate. This is the maror, the Hebrew word for bitter vegetable. Go ahead and pick the next reader.
Maror, bitter vegetables. Slavery was very hard for the Jewish people. We eat bitter herbs to remember the slavery in Egypt. Let us sign together for the blessing of the second cup of wine. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. We all wash our hands. Hand washing is a symbol of respect before making the blessing for the matzah. Now we will go and wash our hands. When you come back, please be quiet. No signing and no talking. Please sit down. Now we will say the blessing for washing the hands. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who made us holy with his commandments and commanded us to wash our hands. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilas yadayim. Let us break the matzah and give everyone a piece. Before eating the matzah, we say two blessings. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the bread from the earth. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has made us holy by thy commandments and commanded us to eat matzah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilas matzah. The Hebrew word for bitter herbs is maror, white grated horseradish. Tonight, we put maror on the matzah. Let us sign the blessing together. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has made us holy by thy commandments and commanded us to eat bitter herbs. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilas maror. Put some of the charoses between two pieces of matzah. The wise Rabbi Hillel of the 1st century made a sandwich with matzah and charoses. So let us eat the Hillel sandwich. Now, we will eat the beitzah, the Hebrew word for hard-boiled egg. Let us begin the meal with hard-boiled eggs with salt water. The egg is a symbol of the mourning. They are served to a bereaved family as their first meal after the funeral. At the same time, the roundness of the egg offers encouragement, for the wheel of fortune is also round, and during its turning can bring joy and happiness.
Enjoy your meal. Now, please stay. When we eat, the Passover service will continue. Enjoy. Did you enjoy your feast? We are done with the festive meal. Now we're waiting for our dessert. Yes, you're right, the afikomen. But where is it? It was on the table, but now it's gone. I suspect that someone hid it. That's okay. I'm going to offer a reward to the child who finds it and brings it to me. Now, come on. Please. I'll be glad to buy from you. I'll even raise the money somewhat. Did you find it? You can't find it? Well, we've got to continue. We can't stop. You found it. Wonderful. Okay, come on up. Great. Now, we're going to read the grace after the meal, and the blessing is called Birkat Hamazon. Go ahead, read it with me. Let us praise God's name forever and ever. We praise Adonai, who gave us our food and is good to us. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. You feed the whole world and take care of us. With goodness and kindness, we have good food.
Pour the third cup of wine. We will drink the third cup of wine to thank God for freeing our ancestors from slavery in Egypt and for the food from the earth. Let us sign and say the blessing together. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Now, we're going to open the door for Elijah. Go ahead, you can do that. Okay. Now, please pour the fourth cup of wine. Okay. Okay, good. Are you okay over there? You okay? Okay. Now, we welcome Elijah and let Elijah come in and drink wine with us. One story goes that the prophet Elijah visits every Jewish home. When that is on Passover, and blesses everyone. Another story goes that Elijah will announce when the Messiah will come. The spirit of Elijah blesses us all. Okay, let's close the door. Is it closed? Good, thank you. Now let's read together. We praise Adonai for good deeds, great kindness, and truth. Let all people praise God. We thank God for all the gifts of our world, for the springtime, and for bringing us together for this festival of freedom.
We are going to drink the fourth cup of wine. Let us raise our cups and say the blessing together. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Now, the Seder is complete. Next year, we hope to have the Seder as free people. Let us read together. Next year in Jerusalem.
Lishana haba'ah beYerushalayim.
Now, we're going to sing a song called Had Gad Yah.
This is my favorite song. It's about an unhappy adventure of this kind father who bought the young goat for his son for only 2 coins. Had Gad Yah means only 1 kid, and 1 kid is a young goat. Zuzim means coins. This song concludes with an expression of hope. Please sign with me. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah, my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came the cat and ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came the dog and bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came a fire and burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came the water and extinguished the fire that burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came an ox and drank the water that extinguished the fire that burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came the butcher and killed the ox that drank the water that extinguished the fire that burned the stick that beat that dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came the angel of death and killed the butcher that killed the ox that drank the water that extinguished the fire that burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. Then came the Holy One, blessed be He, and destroyed the angel of death that killed the butcher that killed the ox that drank the water that extinguished the fire that burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gad Yah, Had Gad Yah. See you next year.
See you next year. Bye. See you next year.
See you next year.
Next year.